rested and really took him away from them. They didn't have a quality second or third scoring option. And, yeah, it's a bit of a surprise. I think it's big for Ben Howland, and it's big for Mississippi State basketball. And, with 7 guys off last year's roster gone, we knew it was going to be a transition year, and I think most people hoped that they could be somewhere around 500 when it was all said and done. But, with South Carolina coming in here on Wednesday, you win that ball game, you really have a shot at finishing 500 or perhaps a game better. And so it was a big win, not just because of the fact that Ole Miss had been playing well, but because of the fact Mississippi State had not been playing well. But Ole Miss had everything to play for. Mississippi State's really just playing for next year right now. But, big win, no doubt about it. And I really thought late in the ball game when Kermit went to the 1-3-1 exclusively, that DJ Stewart made a couple of big baskets to kind of put the game away. I know it was a 6-point margin with about 1:20 to go, and it seemed like Ole Miss had really threatened State so much where offensively they looked so discombobulated, and Stewart makes a big floater in the lane there to push the margin back out, and really thought that was the defining moment in that home stretch. But, big for State in a season that had a lot of big moments.
I go back and forth on Howland, if he's coming back or not. You make a great point. He grabs a South Carolina win. The sell is they lost, the 4 starters and some other players, and COVID and this and that. And people may, I guess the executive leadership in Starkville may justify, even though apathy is 100% in the program, that they may justify not paying him $5+, $6+ million in a buyout. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And I think one of the things that Ben Howland could do to help the cause is you beat South Carolina, and if you can find a way to win that regular season finale at Texas A&M, and Buzz Williams has really had Ben Howland's number. So if you can find a way to win that one, that gives you a chance to win 3 of the last 4 in the regular season. And Ben has won at least a game in the SEC tournament the last 3 years. And so you find a way to do that based on a matchup, and you could argue, we finished on a high note. We've got a little juice, and we've got a young nucleus and kind of feel good going forward. But, I could make the case either way.
Yeah.
I think the win on Saturday buys you a little time, but you can't go out here to lose these last 3 because then you erase any goodwill you've already built up.
No, that's fair enough. They're dinosaur. This is a lot of college basketball, Steve. Kermit's not doing anything amazing on the offensive end either. He inherited 3 phenomenal guards from AK in Davis, Tyree, and Schuler. I guess you could argue maybe they're a little bit better offensively. I'm not even sure you could do that. So I'm not saying Kermit nor Ben are doing anything fun or cool on the offensive end. But then most of college basketball is clunky, and there's just too many games, Steve, where teams go 4, 5, 6 minutes without scoring. So having said that, Howland's kind of dinosaur-like on offense, and I'm not sure he embraces the analytics. So I'm not sure you'll get anything different next year. Here's the deal. Can they beat the NBA draft bug, Steve? In other words, can Stewart hold off? Molinar's not an NBA player right now and may never be, but he's a good college basketball player. If they can beat the NBA draft bug that's gotten them every time a player is on the fence, they may actually be pretty damn good next year if Stewart comes back.
The biggest recruiting job that Ben Howland has right now is, DJ's name starting to pop up in some mock drafts late in the first round, early in the second round. And, listen, those guys in the G League are making $70,000, and so you begin to look at that. And, people forget what it's like to be a starving college student, but yeah, you got to keep DJ Stewart back. You've got to be able to bring this nucleus back next year. And then with some recruiting wins, perhaps you could take a step forward. But, we all knew it was going to be a challenging year. We didn't know that DJ Stewart was going to have the year that he's had. And so now he needs to finish strong, but he'll probably come back and refine the game a little bit, especially on the defensive end. But, it's as simple as that. If Ben Howland doesn't have DJ Stewart next year, then it's probably a year similar to this year, and I just don't think that's going to be enough.
I agree. Blake, do you have something?
Yeah, just real quick, Steve, why would you assume that DJ Stewart would come back? I made the point earlier, there's a reason none of these kids come back, because Ben Howland and the staff can't provide anything for them to come back to. there's no coaching to make them better NBA players. They just need to get out and go.
I think some would argue that Q Weatherspoon got better every single year while at Mississippi State.
But that's Q Weatherspoon. There's no example of anyone else doing that, and there's no reason to come back if your offense is archaic and you're not learning to be a better offensive player.
Okay, you're set in stone. Steve, your thoughts?
Well, I thought Robert Woodard improved from year to year, as well. He was a role player and then eventually became, a star on this team. And so, yeah, I think you can make that argument, but also understand, you don't feel like you're building towards anything. And that's where I think where State has been really hit hard by the portal, in the last couple of years is, you lose your depth. And so every year, all your second-team guys are basically new to your program and need some time to acclimate. And so what Ben Howland needs is some roster stability more than anything else. You get some guys to hang around and buy into what you're doing, and you build in the next year. And then I think you do kind of erase those concerns that Blake mentions, because right now it's almost like coaching a junior college program. You're never really developing and getting guys, to be juniors and seniors where you have some experience. And let's be honest, old wins in this league. And if you look at what Alabama's done, if you look over the years and kind of see what Tennessee's done, when you have guys that stay together for a while, you can put together a quality run. And that has eluded Ben Howland in his time here at Mississippi State.
Steve Robertson, Hail State Insider on the Coors Light guest line. Let's go to baseball. Any talk of Bednar starting today? For Mississippi State, he woke up sore yesterday. Have you heard anything on Bednar maybe going today for Mississippi State against Texas Tech?
Nothing this morning. I'm told it may be a game-time decision late yesterday. I was told they're just going to see how he feels, and training staff's been working with him and trying to get everything together. But, yeah, Bednar is a difference maker for them because he is a guy that can go out there and eat up some innings, and he's a swing and miss guy. So with a team that's aggressive offensively like Texas Tech, not to mention they're 0-2, so, State's going to get their best shot today. You need your best available arm. And so if he can go, I think that bodes really well for State. And I don't know what you do after that. The good thing is they have some options. And listen, State put a lot of guys on base yesterday, 7 walks yesterday, and 3 of those were instrumental in all 3 TCU runs. But they pitched well enough to win. You just didn't get enough offensively. State only allowed 4 hits yesterday, out-hit the Horned Frogs, but couldn't get that timely base hit. And you saw in the 9th inning, State has Drew McGowan step up and just absolutely tattoo a baseball. But give TCU credit, they're shaded up the middle, playing double play depth, and that ball's hit 10 feet one way or another. It's probably a different discussion this morning.
Okay. So they had a big win on Saturday. They were right there yesterday with the bases loaded and smashed a ball right to the second baseman who was playing over. Double played out of that. If Bednar doesn't go today, Steve, who do you think will get the ball?
That's a $10 million question. Jackson Fristow is a guy that is a young guy that's very, very talented. I don't know if you're ready to roll him out there just yet, but that's always a possibility. If they hadn't used, Brandon Smith yesterday, that would have been an option. But it could be a by committee approach, and they threw a bunch of arms yesterday. Houston Harding, of course, is out for the day, but they may just kind of piece this thing together and kind of match it up, and we'll see. But State threw a lot of young arms yesterday. Cole Alford and Xavier Lovett, guys that they're really high on. And so there is some depth and there's plenty of guys available. It's not like you're going to have to play a position player on the mound today, which is a good thing. And State's been there before. You remember in the Canizaro years, you had 3 different position players get wins, which is crazy. Cole Gordon and Brent Blaylock and Jake Mangum all pitched that year as position guys. State's not in that situation at all. You've got some real options out there, and we'll just kind of push this thing and see. You got Carlisle Kessler is a guy that started some last year. He was the regular Sunday starter, and so he's a guy that's available as well. Stone Simmons is a grad transfer from Furman. So there's a lot of names that Bulldog fans might not be quite familiar with that are very, very talented players. And so today I don't think it's going to be about pitching. I think State's got to go out there and do some things offensively. And, when you look at, how this thing has kind of played out, they jumped on Texas early and then kind of rode the bullpen to a win. And yesterday they gift TCU a run and really began to chase the game from the very first inning. And Russell Smith, you give him a ton of credit from TCU. what a great job he did. And
Yeah.
the reliever they brought in, Marcelo, came in and was phenomenal. I mean, State finally gets to him there in the ninth inning, but TCU pitched it well. And sometimes you got to tip your cap to the other guys. But I thought Smith, at 6'9", you expect him to be this overpowering 95, 96. He's a guy that kind of floats around the low 90s. But where he really gave State trouble is he's throwing a 3- and 4-pitch mix. I mean, he's a guy that really kept him off balance with the breaking ball, which kept him off the fastball. And he could change speed some. And you just don't see that, with a guy that size. You expect him to be a straight power arm. And I was very, very impressed with him. Johnny Ray is a guy that TCU's really high on. He pitched against Ole Miss and struggled with some control issues. And listen, I've seen all the stuff about, Doug Nikhazy. Some people are, talking about him not getting out of the second. Nikhazy's going to be fine. Johnny Ray is going to be fine. I mean, these are guys that are frontline starters, going to be some of the better Friday night guys in the country. But I thought Russell Smith pitched about as well as I've seen somebody pitch against State in the last couple of years.
Well, Ole Miss turned that game on Texas Tech in about 30 seconds yesterday with their bats. That was impressive.
And that's the thing. That's the thing about Ole Miss too. That's so impressive. Is like, they can sit there and be in that war of attrition with you, and just kind of grind it out and grind it out and grind it out. Next thing you know, you let a guy get on base with a walk or an error, and then you've got a guy pitching from a stretch, and they've got some guys who can turn the baseball around, and they've shown this weekend that they're great 2-out hitters, and in some situations, great 2-strike hitters. I mean, he hit the big 2-run bomb yesterday, on a 2-strike count when it really looked like the guy was overmatched. And so, yeah, I mean, it was an impressive weekend, and so far it's a 5-1 weekend for the SEC, which I think is a really loud statement. I think we all felt like the SEC teams had a chance to have a really good event out there, and today could prove to be a really good one, because I think the SEC West is kind of showing, we're going to have a say in how this whole thing plays out this year.
Landon Sims against Texas, 10 Ks in 4 innings. What could he, with his production in his first outing, what could his role be eventually, Steve?
Well, he could start. I think one of the things is you just got to get everybody back. Sarantola was expected to go today, and, he's out for some medical reasons, and we'll just use the Dr. Evil quotes there. He is expected to be back. But yeah, I mean, Landon Sims is a guy that, they thought last year they could kind of develop him into a closer, and then they say, well, he's got starting potential. I like him out of the bullpen because I think, if he gives you a couple innings on Friday, he can come back and give you 1 or 2 on Sunday. But that performance there in the 5th inning, the bottom of 5, when he comes in, bases loaded, nobody outs, and then strikes out the side and gives them absolutely nothing, that's about as gutsy as a performance you're going to see from a reliever at Mississippi State or anywhere else. And, he's got that great rising action on his fastball, and Logan Tanner and I have talked about that, in a one-on-one interview, and he says that Landon Sims has the best rising fastball that he's ever caught. He's just one of those guys that gets above bats, and it's difficult to barrel him up. And, if you're lucky, you kind of hit a little Texas leaguer out there to the outfield. But, 10 Ks against 12 hitters, that's about as efficient as it's going to be. And, what'd you have, a ground out, maybe a little short fly out? I mean, it's just when you have a guy that's locked in like that, you're going to win a lot of ball games. And that was the difference, I think, between Saturday and Sunday. State walked 1 hitter on Saturday, and that was in the 9th inning when the game had already been decided at 8-1. And then yesterday you walked 7. They didn't make any errors on Saturday, and then they make 2 on Sunday in the 1st inning to give TCU a run. And when you're playing top 10 competition, you just can't afford to give people extra base runners and certainly give them extra outs. And that was kind of State's undoing yesterday.
Tuesday's game against Jackson State is moved, so they played Wednesday against Jackson State at Duty Noble Field, Steve?
Yeah, that's correct. And they'll make that Tuesday game up at some point, whether it be Jackson State or somebody else, because you just didn't want to be in a situation where you're playing 5 straight days and then you've got to turn around and play a weekend series here. So a good move by Coach Lemonis, and that's kind of the situation we're in with all this weather. I mean, they're very fortunate to get the event in, and there were a lot of people very critical of the decision to kind of move forward. But I think it's been okay, and I know nationally a lot of people have enjoyed seeing 6 top 10 teams get out there and compete head-to-head. And it's great for the game because, usually this time of year, we're playing the Louisiana School of Math and Science, in that open series. I mean, that's kind of what you do, to kind of warm people up. And, for State and Ole Miss both to go out there and pick up some, a couple big wins early on, I think really bodes well, not just for the state of Mississippi, but the SEC, because SEC baseball is best when you've got teams in the West, not just like LSU, that kind of hold Vandy and Florida accountable. We need the league to be balanced. And we knew from the very beginning, even before the rankings came out, you and I have talked about this off air, we knew State and Ole Miss were both going to be really, really good this year. And I think the league needs that to happen. I think it's good for college baseball because when State and Ole Miss are good, I think it'll make everybody else better.
We'll leave it there. We'll do a football hit maybe later in the week. Steve Robertson, genespage.com, 247 Network, the Boneyard Podcast, joining us on the Coors Light guest line. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Take care.
The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools. We've got to do a big DeWalt giveaway, according to my man Todd, coming up here soon as we head into March Madness and the Masters and the NFL Draft. Well, in spring football for Kiffin and Leach. Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools. Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools. New location, Gluckstadt, Madison County. acebolt.net. That's acebolt.net. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. Hour number 3 coming up. Good morning. Welcome in.